Get going. All right, I'm going to call this meeting to order. We have a 20-point agenda. Was it properly posted? I'd entertain a motion to approve the agenda. Motion by Frank, second by Renish. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Did you see, but Barb is online, by the way. Okay, all right. All right, just, yeah, we do have a quorum. We have 4 of our 7. All right, so item number 4, minutes from the January 6th public safety meeting. All right, motion by Renish, second by Frank. Any discussion on those minutes? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Item number 5, coroner updates. It's nice. Is he sending that to you, or are you just putting it? Nice. It's nice to have it in here so I can peek at it before the meeting. I mean, I guess, should we officially go through it?
It's up to you.
Sure, go ahead. I mean, you want to go ahead?
14 calls in January, 13 of the 14 were cremations. Causes of death, 6 were heart-related conditions, 5 cancer, 1 aneurysm, 1 failure to thrive, advanced stage, and 1 pending. 5 were receiving hospice services. The youngest was 42, the oldest was 93. And thank you for your continued support, Jim.
All right, thank you. I feel like if he's going to take the time to summarize it, we should talk about it. So does anyone have any questions on the coroner's report? Okay. All right, that brings us to the circuit court judge updates and comments. Either on top or the gray button on the bottom. It's on.
All right, super. All right, good morning. So I guess the most exciting news is that we've convened a couple of the committees that I've been tasked with convening, and we've had a couple of successful meetings. We met the Criminal Justice Coordinating Council Committee met a couple of weeks ago. That brings all the different stakeholders together, talking about the different aspects of the criminal justice system specifically, and the interplay and how we can all work together, and different aspects. I thought it was a good meeting, and we will continue to meet quarterly. That meeting, or that committee, is particularly important because it is the oversight committee for treatment court, and it's a required committee for the grant that funds treatment court. So that was good. And then last week we also had the first courthouse security meeting since I've been judge, and the first one in a long time, actually.
It was a couple years ago, I think, the last one. 3 years, yeah. When I first got on the board, yeah.
There was a very good attendance, and I thought very good participation. There was a nice energy in the room. I think we all recognize that there's plenty to discuss there. There's a lot of things to tackle. We're using as the framework there the Supreme Court rule that governs and guides with regard to courthouse security. That's Supreme Court Rule 68. And in that rule, there's an entire list of things to look at, and for the committee to draft and put together policies and procedures with regard to courthouse security, everything from personnel to facilities, long-range planning, things like that. So that's definitely a nice forum for that to occur. So appreciate everybody's participation in that. Otherwise, things in the circuit court are moving along nicely. We're still, and I'm sure Stacy will talk about this, but we're moving forward with the plans to sort of more vigorously apply our bail forfeiture procedures. And we actually did a few of those this last week, where when people fail to appear, there is a more regular and immediate forfeiture of their bail. There's an opportunity for people to review that if they want to take advantage of that, if they end up showing up. But Yeah, so that'll help our bottom line a little bit, and I think that will also help promote public safety. We talked about that just in terms of there may be sort of a perception that it doesn't really matter what you do on bail because it's never going to get taken away. So if that perception can be altered a little bit by a little more vigorous enforcement of those bail forfeiture statutes, then that's what we intend to do. So that's about all I have. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any questions, Judge? All right, that brings us to the clerk of court update.
Good morning.
Morning. You're on, I think. Yep.
Thanks. Yes, on the bail forfeiture matter, you'll notice in the revenue guidelines, that attachment. See if I can find it for you on one of these pages. There's actually, and this was before we started hitting hard with our criminal calendars within the last week. When a warrant is ordered because of someone's non-appearance and the judge immediately ordering the forfeiture of bail. So there was one that got captured in January, I think like $650. See that? Sure. Yeah, on page 6 of the revenue guidelines. That attachment, revenue item 4429, bond forfeitures. So it was good to see, you know, that on there. We just do what we got to do every day and comply with orders, and we don't always every day as they're happening think of what it's going to look like on the revenue guidelines, because the financial part of it is a consequence. That's part of what happens with court. There's a lot more that goes on with the forfeiture of bail that the clerk of court's office does, but so, you know, had kind of forgot that, oh yeah, actually it's not 650, it's 350, sorry. 350 is the amount posted. But we'll have more of those showing up, and hopefully on a more regular basis. And as we do these hearings that allow people the opportunity to explain why they blew off the court appearance, or the person who posted money, the reason why they think that it was justified, that we should consider not taking their money, as we have some of those, I think we'll get our procedure down good. So we can't say how much it's going to be yet or how it's going to work. Give us a few months and I think we'll have that figured out. So, you know, with 1 month in, it's kind of hard to tell you how we are doing overall with revenue, but I do always look internally. And when I say internally, the last part of those, the Richland County collections by account report, that's the last 3 pages of that revenue attachment. That's the details of the accounts that I'm keeping, that then as I collect money on it and pay it out to the county treasurer at the beginning of the month, that's what generates when they post them to the appropriate accounts. So internally, I always do comparison reports, and I look at the same time period last year, and, you know, we're on pace already. So, and the state debt collections, the first group of that came in yesterday, and that was like super exciting. So I will receipt that once I get the verification report from the state, so that I don't have issues with reconciliation. But that looks to be a good chunk of money. And in that, there are a few restitution accounts. So money that the county doesn't get, but it's very important for people that live in the county and elsewhere who've been victims of crimes that have been committed in Richland County, is the restitution, the financial collections that the clerk of court does to make those people whole, at least financially. And state debt collection helps me collect a lot of that money towards that effect too. And so this time, you know, there's that on there as well. And that reflects in the others share. When you look at these reports and it's like amount collected, county share, state share, others share, restitution is in others. And it's the RHT on the second page of that, restitution held in trust. So, you know, we're off to a decent start so far in January, $729 that we collected.
What page is that?
It would be, it looks like this, the collections, it's at the end of the revenue report. And it has its own numbering, which I just left on there, so it's page 2 of 3 of that. We are also, a yearly thing that we do is putting together the jury pool for the circuit court for both, all cases, including the Richland probates and the clerk of courts cases. We had fairly decent compliance on the first round of questionnaires that we sent out, but never 100%. So we're in the process right now of sending out second round questionnaires to residents who didn't return their first ones. So we had about 700 people who returned the first ones, about 200 people who did not. So we're sending a nice but direct letter to them with the instructions of what to do with that questionnaire. And so as we run each of those over the mail machine, with the amount of postage, as because we send a lot of stuff out from our office for the court. None of it's frivolous. It's not,
Postage just went
Hello.
up again.
yeah, it's not hello, how are you letters. It's court dates, financial reminder notices, jury correspondence. It's stuff we cannot cut back on. And so that postage increase affects us. So, but do you have any questions?
So on,
page 1 of just the revenue sheet,
Yeah.
I'm just curious, it's showing 54% of the revenue already brought in for January for the grants. Does that come at the first of the year?
That's not it. It's, well, it's state aid. It's not a grant. It comes
Right.
during January. It came like on the 27th or 28th. It's made out to the county treasurer, and it's for part of our annual court support payments.
And then the other half comes like in July? Is
Yeah,
that how they project it?
Yeah, it comes in July, and it'll be another half of that,
Okay.
plus it will be combined with the guardian ad litem support payment and the interpreter support payment. So each time we have a interpreter expense, there's some recoupment work that I do on my end to the state. They used to just reimburse us for that. When they got those sheets, they would cut you a check. They do it differently now. They hold it all and they do it as part of your state court aid. And then a couple of years ago, they had like some like extra money. It was the first time that they did it this way, and then we got like a second check. Last year, I think that they only combined it with the July payment
Okay.
of the other stuff. So, and I work with the county clerk's office on this. They, where the state's been changing its structure of how they do the court aid. And changes have happened in the county clerk's office with staff. Sometimes we don't have these coded quite right.
Okay.
And so it may look like at the end of the year, something, we had money set aside for it and nothing got brought in from state aid. But then you'll notice in some of the other state aid that we're way over percentage wise. It's just a coding issue up there. We've been getting all of our money, so.
All right, great, thank you.
Yeah.
All right. There's nothing else. We'll move on to the probate department.
So there's not any report that's actually filed on the agenda item this time. So just with it being this early in the month for this meeting, when I talked to the county clerk's office yesterday, they just didn't have all of the
Yeah.
January entries in order to produce the month-end reports to provide for you. So, I mean, as far as the 2023 in January, it's going to look good right now, as it always does. Again, I'm going to tell you that the 2022 budget for my office is going to be over. We'll admit it.
Yeah, I think that I'll have everyone maybe in March come back with, because by then we should have everything closed out, and then we'll talk about the end of all of 2022 and how it turned out.
Great.
Yeah.
And so there was some very expensive attorney fees. That's the main reason why it's over. So, and then just, on the minutes from last month, it says that we were going to start interviews. After reviewing the applicants with the judge, we decided to hold off. We just didn't feel like it had the qualifications that we were really wanting. And I will say that, so as you all know, I have three hats: judicial assistant, register and probate, and juvenile clerk. And the judge is going to be in on the hiring process, and this is, probably almost the top priority is going to be as, being the assistant for the judicial assistant, basically. It's going to be very important, and that's as much of our priority as the register and probate and juvenile clerk.
So are you reposting the position to try and
So
get more
we-
applicants, or?
Yes, so it's actually, the deadline is through today. I am hopeful and optimistic that we will find someone that is qualified. We do now, I feel like, have a couple applicants that are more qualified on paper. And so we are moving forward, but just wanted to really try and find a good fit for this position from the beginning before we started the hiring and training process.
Right. And so are you doing okay? Keeping your head above water?
I will say barely, but yes, yeah, I'm hanging in there. So the good news is that, my budget might be all right because I've survived a month without any assistance. So,
Right.
right. We're saving that. So hopefully we can catch up. So,
Okay.
and I do appreciate Stacy's help with the financial side of things. That does help me up more than she knows, because it's helping me keep up with some of those little things. Just to kind of add to what the judge said, when we had the court security meeting, there were people there that were surprised how often we have two judges here. How often physically we have a judge in the large courtroom and a judge in the small courtroom. So there's a couple things I just wanted to bring to your attention. One, that affects, of course, court security. And sometimes it was brought up, like with our court commissioner, that family cases, and I will say on Chip's cases, that people become very emotional. And, when the judge gives her decision, it's important to have court security in the courtroom at that time. So we talked about a couple of incidences, but I just wanted to bring to this committee's attention how important it seems kind of trivial. And it can seem long. You sit there all day through a court trial. But at the time when the judge states her decision, it is important to have court security. So these guys.
How are we doing how is our staffing for court security, or who is our staff for court security right now?
So we have two people who are regularly covering for
Two deputies?
We have two deputies,
Okay.
Christian and Tyler. And then we have two people who are kind of, we're training them to help cover patrol shifts, but when they're not in school, they're coming in and helping cover court as well. That's rarely. Ideally, so they both have class Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So they can only help us
Monday,
on
Friday.
Monday and Friday. So in what it looks like is when we get into these instances where we have two courtrooms running, it's one of us from command staff or Toby that's going over and covering court.
And we don't have any casual that we're covering?
That's what we're covering with is casual. So Christian's a casual, Tyler's a casual.
Okay.
And then we have the two that are still, they've graduated the academy, they completed the academy, but they're still finishing their degree.
Okay.
So
Do we have, not that you could find some, but can you hire more? Do you have authority to hire more casuals? I think we authorized up to 5, did we not?
we authorized up to 8.
Up to 8?
for
Okay.
each, for jail and road, like 8 each. So, and we're at 7 right now.
So we have 2 of the casuals assigned.
6.
You have 6, and 2 of them are assigned to the court, but the other 4 are filling in the jail. And
No, we have 4 that can work court right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you're talking about the 2 students?
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah. It's just they're only available to us Monday and
Right.
Friday. So, I say that when they graduate, availability will become more, but also when they graduate,
They're going to need to be on the road as well.
they're probably going to get snapped up by somebody full time.
Oh. Yeah.
So, you know, that's
Quick.
the way the market is right now for us. If you have a decent candidate, they get picked off in a hurry. So,
Okay.
it's going to be a struggle.
Okay. All right.
The only other thing I wanted to bring to your attention is that Stacia had mentioned interpreter expenses. And for the first time, actually, since I've been here, we have had and will be having more interpreter expenses. So we have a couple of cases. Well, we have more where we need Spanish interpreters, and I have a case where there's a person that's hearing impaired, and we need to have a sign language interpreter. So, sometimes I just wanted to bring again to your attention as a committee that those expenses and line items fluctuate depending on the cases that are going through. So that will be one line item that will be higher in 2023 is interpreter expenses.
Did you cut that line in your 23 budget, or do you keep just a standard amount in that line, or
I have kept just a standard amount.
standard amount?
So that particular line item could possibly be
Oh,
over
right.
this year.
Again, impossible to predict.
And we do get some aid on that. So
Okay. Anything else?
no, that's
Any
unless
questions?
anyone has any questions.
No? Sure, briefly.
I learned something cool yesterday that might be coming down the pike that could positively affect us, at least with the hearing impaired individuals in the courtroom. I'm, as the president of the Clerk of Court Association, I'm on CCAP steering, the Consolidated Court Automation Program. And it's the policy and planning for the automation that powers the court and, all sorts of things related with that. And one of their plan projects, not like immediate, but it will be coming, is related to the digital audio recording stuff, the DAR, that was the solution to losing so many stenographers in the state, and the equipment that the state owns and put in our courtrooms, so that we have a digital court reporter. And so she uses that stuff, and court reporters that come, they use that stuff. Moving forward, CCAP is looking at how they will add equipment to those systems as there's more stenographers retire, and then there's more need for, the equipment to even be more advanced throughout the state. One of the pieces they want to put in will provide closed captioning in the courtrooms, which would be a huge benefit to us, because those, like the American Sign Language interpreters, whatever we book, they're buku expensive. And it's not like Spanish interpreters where there are many of them, very specialized, very few. And so we are at their mercy. And they have these cancellation policies that are like over the top, crazy. It's very expensive for us. So I heard that, I thought, oh man, sometimes that could save us 1,000 or more, probably, in longer hearings. So I think that as some of that technology becomes available, we'll watch, and we might be able to harness some of those things. And we do that with Spanish interpretation now. Instead of having them come here and pay the exorbitant travel amounts, we do all of that by Zoom. So that's where they still have their per hour charge, but we have no travel cost on those. And so I think we've evolved pretty good to keep up with that, but,
All right. Thank you. All right. That brings us to district attorney updates, which I guess I don't know who M is, but I'm assuming that's not the district attorney. So we will move on to emergency management. It might be dead.
Gosh, when the battery's gone.
Feels like Monday, and it's only Friday.
So inside the folder, there's two documents that I wanted to share with you. One was the expenditure guideline for Fund 10, which is the emergency management program. Their revenues for that program only come in once a year, and it's typically the following calendar year. So we haven't seen those revenues in here yet. But last time we met, I reported that we were a couple $1,000s over the budget. After the department head meeting, I was able to sit down with Tammy Wheelock, and we discovered there were some bills that were coded wrong, that were actually coded to Fund 10, should have been to Fund 51. So that brought it down to, we were just over budget by $194.
That's nice.
So
That's pretty good.
I believe that will be the end. Revenues will be higher than what was projected
That's nice too.
because of the appropriation from Congress to the Emergency Management Performance Grant. So it looks like instead of being in the $32,000 range, it's going to be around $41,000 will be the grant. So
Good.
closeout happened last week, or this week actually, 31st. Payment hopefully will be here before March.
That's good.
The LEPC side, which is Fund 49, we are starting to close out our hazard mitigation plan. So the bills have come in there, and we'll be right on budget with that program.
Good.
Grant amount for that was $13,625, and we had about $6,000 in-kind match to that, so it should be any out of pocket for the county.
Good.
The Emergency Planning Committee project, which is under line 5243, it shows that we were under by $5,343, but the hazmat team bill from Vernon County has not been processed yet because we're waiting for the grant document to come in. So that should be close to zero at the end. That's what I have for reports there.
All right.
Are there any questions on those two?
Didn't have any.
So committee approval to apply for the FEMA AFG grant. The grant application opened up on January 9th, and I didn't see any notice, so I didn't realize that it opened up until last Thursday. It closes out February 10th, next Friday. So the letters did go out. I hand delivered them to the fire chiefs Monday night, fire chiefs meeting. Sheriff Porter was there with me, and we kind of discussed and
Is this for the
emphasize
subscriber?
the
stuff?
subscriber radios.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
So it's a 95.5.
Right.
So for a portable radio for the subscriber, and this number came from Steve Krieger because they're writing grants themselves. It'd be about $150 a portable radio if this grant is secured versus $1,800 to $2,000.
Right.
So I hand delivered the letter to all the fire chiefs that were there, and all of them were there except for Muscatine. Then one of our full-time advanced EMTs sent out emails yesterday to all the fire chiefs, EMS chiefs, EMR entities. I think there might be one or two that he's getting emails done, but he had sent that out yesterday. We've heard back from Richland Center Fire is going to participate. Obviously, the ambulance service will because we're going to sponsor the grant.
Mm-hmm.
Muscatine Fire and EMS are going to participate. Blue River will be participating. We'll be doing their mobiles. They did get a grant for portables last year.
Okay.
I have not heard any commitment from Viola, Lafarge, Casanova, Ithaca, or Yuma at this time. So we'll be making phone calls again on Monday.
What did you say the deadline is? The 10th?
Next Friday.
Okay. Yeah.
So a couple of caveats here. One, I know that the county board there's supposed to be a resolution of the county board to apply for when it's received a grant.
We'll ask for forgiveness later.
But yeah, that isn't going to be able to happen. And I don't have a final number right now because I don't know how many radios
Mm-hmm.
each department are going to request. So it's kind of
Well, presumably-
open-ended, but
Well, are we putting in for your department as well?
yeah,
It
law
won't
enforcement.
cover, oh, it's only, okay, right. Gotcha. It doesn't cover law enforcement. Okay. I forgot about that part. Subscribers, yeah. Yeah. So you think you can still get it done?
We'll get it done.
Okay.
I just so that this committee knows, in case you guys get phone calls from a department, I stressed to them, and Clay was there, it's a hard deadline. A couple other departments had said also that they were kind of surprised by it too. So they were kind of pushing hard, but if they don't give me the stuff, I can't include them in the
Right.
grant.
And what you need from them is essentially just what radios, the specs on the radio they want and the cost.
We're gonna
And the
go with,
number.
we're just gonna go with Motorola radio specs because
Oh,
it's
okay.
typically a little higher as far as the dollar
Oh,
value.
and because they just get the money and then they can use that money to buy as many units as they,
Basically, yes.
right?
I need their budget for 3 years and call
Oh,
information for 3 years. And
Right.
then staffing information, like most of them are all volunteers, but I need those numbers. So, the Grant County Emergency Manager, I reached out to him. He writes these grants all the time, and he had a really easy template that he hands out to his departments. So I forwarded that out to everybody, so they could just fill in the blanks, and I'll do the rest of the work. So,
Okay.
but again, if they don't give me the stuff, I can't.
Did you
include it.
guys, when you met with or hand delivered the letters, did you stress with them that we are at this point unclear how much money we'll have left for subscriber?
Yes, and both of us kind of took
Equipment?
a different angle at that. Clay also mentioned about the potential of the towers and all the other prices going up. So it was. I'm going to do my best to get them about the information. We'll get the grant application done regardless what it takes, but I can't chase them down. I don't have the time to chase them down. So
No,
they get a
and you
phone
shouldn't
call,
have
they
to.
get an email.
You shouldn't have to. This is, I mean,
they're getting a
this would
letter
be-
hand
it would be
delivered.
silly for them to not do a few little things so that they can get 95% of their costs paid for. And our taxpayers are, Richland County taxpayers aren't paying for it, I'm sure.
Right.
The grant is a federal one, so we're all paying federal taxes, but whatever. Okay. Thank you. So if you want me to read over stuff, you can email me. I mean, I'll be out of
Narrative.
town, but I can take a look at it.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, the narrative will be a big piece.
Yeah.
You know, trying to, if you could, the better, the easier you could paint the picture of the need. You know, that scores highest at everything is showing the need. And I think we could show the need
I
because
think so.
all of our departments are, you know,
Oozing
strapped.
desperation.
Yep. Well, strapped for cash. Townships are tight because of tax levy limits. Counties tight because of tax limit. There's all kinds of reasons.
Right. Okay.
So I just need our approval to draft a
Right.
resolution. for
So
this
I
grant.
would entertain that motion. All right. Motion by Frank. Second by Renish. Any other discussion on the grant? So we will be bringing it to the county board in February, but it will be after we've already submitted it, correct?
Yeah, the 10th is the deadline.
It's happened before. And I guess we just want to make sure the resolution is clear that the 5% would be coming, our 5% that we're responsible for would come from the borrowed funds. Right?
I did not commit. I had
Not for,
said-
not for the people, not for the, not the 5% for the individual departments, but for like Richland EMS and stuff, where is that coming from? Would that be coming from your own
we
department
will
funds?
come out of our own department.
Okay,
funds.
so essentially it's all coming from departmental. We assume it's coming from department funds and not our borrowed funds.
I
Okay.
shared with them that there was that discussion, but with the
We
you
just
know,
don't
the
know.
discussion on trying to fund subscriber,
Right,
and it just doesn't. If we could bring this 95% of that cost back here, that takes a huge burden off of everybody.
right.
You know, and then those
So they can
dollars.
cover the 5%.
That's kind of what I stressed in the letter too. Was
Okay.
we're just trying to bring more money into the pot.
Okay,
And I had expressed, I mean, when I spoke at the meeting, I had said that the tower count was going up, and as the tower count climbs, that subscriber equipment money is gonna be impacted. And so they said, if you don't participate in the grant, or if the grant's not successful, I don't know how much money.
we
there's
don't know
going
for
to be.
sure what's gonna be
Yeah.
in there. Right.
So I tried to paint that unknown that we just don't know how this is gonna shake out by the end.
Right.
So,
Because 8.5 is the maximum,
yes.
period.
And, Fire Chief Scott Galden mentioned too, the fire departments also have a DNR funding source for portable radios, mobile radios, which covers 50% of the cost. So Richland Center Fire is not going to be requested any mobiles. They've just been buying theirs out of that fund. So he kind of you know, in talking with the other chiefs said, hey, there's other opportunities to be able to get this equipment as well. So
What I don't want is for them to just completely not
Right.
try to do anything and just
Right.
assume that we're going to give them or be able to give them the money, which we may or may
Exactly.
not be able to do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Couple of questions. So, this grant, each of the agencies will be required for their own 5%. Richland County be responsible for the 5% that we have for the ambulance service and some of those things. Is that
no, it'll be coming out of our segregated account. There won't be any county levy dollars put towards this
and
or borrowed money.
okay? So, this grant money comes into a central location, or does it go to each of the agencies individually?
So it'll come here. We'll have to manage it here because it'll be the fiscal agent. They will then, if we're awarded it, the departments could go out, order their equipment. They have to forward the invoice to me with all the serial numbers. That gets categorized. We pay the bill. We get reimbursed back. They'll have to pay their 5% when they submit the invoice.
All right. Any other questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
I'm assuming Barb, you're an aye.
Yes.
Any opposed? All right. We have approval. All right. So that brings us to, actually, do we want to talk about Mike first? With Mike first. Mike, are you on? We can give him a minute, I guess. Mike, Day, are you able to give us an update? Okay.
Can you
I
hear me
guess-
now?
Oh, yes, now we can hear you.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm wrestling with audio today, so I got my cell phone and my computer both going. So, I was having a little hard time hearing on the computer for some reason. So, you want me to go ahead and give an update now?
Yes, I would like to hear where things are at. And
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me start. I wanted to add just a little thought to your previous conversation there on subscribers. Maybe already have it on your radar. I'm not sure, but keep in mind that the state of Wisconsin is likely moving to a 700, 800 megahertz radio system in the future here. That was what their RFP request was. So as your users buy radios, look at radios, they should always be thinking about how much they need to talk on that system or may need to talk on it in the future. I know they're going to try and maintain some type of VHF connection, which is what they have with their current Wiscom system today. So there may be those gateways as well, but the dual band or multi-band radios is also the solution for being able to support that 700, 800 megahertz. And so a lot of the vendors are building those sometimes today where you can buy the radio, maybe just buy a single band, and in the future, if you need the other bands, it's kind of a firmware payment or option that you would then pay for and open it up. So maybe just good practice to try and look at those models now, and whether or not you buy that in the future or whatever, you have those capabilities. You don't have to actually throw the subscriber away and buy another subscriber. So as far as the project goes, I think I'll start with overall. We are a little bit behind the timeline that we had hoped to be on. I put that at about 30 days, maybe a little bit more right now. We've had some challenges. If you remember the system design, 9 sites, most of those sites were lease sites, so leased from some multiple vendors. And so that's really been our challenge, is getting those, getting into their processes, understanding their processes, communicating back and forth with them, and trying to get an understanding of what whether their space is available on the tower and whether or not the county can afford their space on the tower. So, which is what we ran into in one of the cases. So, those vendors, U.S. Cellular is your main tower site there in Richland. You have a really good relationship with them. We've certainly kind of gotten a long ways within their processes. I think we're really on the cusp of having a good understanding. I think we're safe with those folks. The challenge there too is we deal with a company that represents their interests, so we don't necessarily deal directly with U.S. Cellular, and you have some very old leases there, so kind of working through that process has been a challenge. And then the real big issue that we ran into that's kind of caused us to have to make some big adjustments is we had two sites that were owned by the company Mobility. And again, working through their processes, they want us to kind of submit formal documents and then they have to run them up the ladder and get it all approved. Well, when they came back to us with a lease rate that was just astronomical. It was $4,000 a month, and $50,000 a year per site kind of thing. So we realized that that's just not in the ballpark at all. I mean, you could build a site for that price within 3 years of leasing a tower like that. You would have paid for your own site. So we had to make some big adjustments there. We've kind of settled on those adjustments now, and we feel like we've got a U.S. Cellular site to replace one of them. We feel like we've got a potential greenfield site to replace the other one. The county owns some land over near Keysville. Might work out really well for us on a high hill. So we've kind of just recently in the last week or so settled on what we were kind of calling our 2.0 design, which is looking pretty good. Again, we're waiting to hear back from U.S. Cellular with the other tower owner, Richland Telephone. I think we've just experienced a little bit of delays getting communications back and forth with them, but I'm not too concerned there. You have a really good lease rate. He's definitely been discussed the preliminary changes and uses of the tower. So we're pretty comfortable there. But yeah, the site over in Keysville and the changes with the other sites, we've got some landowner items that we're still waiting to get a little more comfort with, but we feel like we know where we want to put some towers. We've got maybe some multiple options with landowners, but we want to kind of get to that letter of intent stage so that we can feel like the landowner understands what we have to do to site a tower there, and they're likely going to say they understand what the county would give them if that were to move forward. And so locking those in is important. But the site or the new design kind of gets us a little better design because we've got a full ring network with the microwave system. And I think we've, the adjustments in the towers, we looked at coverage, and coverage is looking really good as well. So big steps, I guess, there. Again, we're on the cusp. I think we can make up some of this time, but we're looking at trying to kind of rein in and get this design more formalized, and then we'll move through to the detailed design process, and even I'm going to be reaching out next week to kind of pull in our civil engineering options. And so those are the things that are happening with the actual radio system. I think we've already seen Clinton. I think Clinton's moved to kind of bump the borrowing dates a little bit, anticipating some of the delays we've had. So on the good side, oh, go ahead.
Mike, I just have so how many greenfield sites do we think we are going to have total?
So I think we could be looking at up to 4 right now, but we're probably looking at least 3. We had originally, I think, anticipated 2 because we know we wanted to try and improve in our budget, and we know we wanted to try and improve the Viola area. So, yeah, I think there's a question there, or there's a possibility there that some of that might expand our civil costs, but we really haven't come to kind of reformalizing that budget yet.
So just to clarify, so in our original proposal, you think we had 2? I thought we had 3 green sites in our original proposal. It was just 2? So if we have to build 3, we talked about that we could take that out of our contingency, but if we have to build 4, is that when we start moving into our subscriber budget?
Yeah, I think, yeah, certainly there could be the possibility. We do have some ideas, again, it comes down to kind of what that site looks like. One of the sites that's probably in flux as far as a greenfield site was down in the southwestern part of the county, Westport, the Westport site. But yeah, we're just looking at a possibility of another space. That's one of the Richland telephone locations, and the tower up on that hill is probably not in good shape. So we're not exactly sure what we're going to do there. We've had challenges, obviously, getting up there to kind of look at that location and really lock in whether or not that's a good spot, or whether or not we've got another hill to the east a little bit that might be a better location as a greenfield site. So.
Okay, thank you.
Mike, this is Bob. Do you have an estimate of what the tallest greenfield site will be at this point? Are we looking over 300?
Now, I don't think we're looking at over 300. The greenfield sites that, other than probably the site in the southeast there, where we're looking at maybe some farm ground, probably not up on the bluffs, because not really a good location to get up there. We did have one area identified, but it looks like there was some mining up there, and we weren't sure about whether or not we could get any really electrical up there, whether or not the road that was accessing that was something that you could rely on. Other than that tower, which again we want to try and place on as kind of going up on as high a spot as we can get to on the bluff, that's probably going to be our tallest location because of it. The other sites, the Keysville site, the SNS site up north, those are really up on some high grounds right now. So I don't think those towers we'll try and keep them under 200 feet so we don't have to light them. So
Okay.
then moving on a little bit to maybe some of the better news. We have been moving forward with radio consoles, and we intend to probably start even next week, or see the vendor GenCom to come in and start implementing or installing some equipment there. The plan is to probably get that equipment installed, getting it running parallel with the existing radio console today. Then we'll do some training, get the county fully comfortable with operating that system. And we kind of intend to move that system in place, and it will support the radio operations, and then we'll leave the existing console operating to support the door controls and the intercom systems that it supports right now. And then as we replace the jail system, the security system, it'll really be a swapping out of the old radio console with the new jail controlled door access system. And so that's kind of the plan moving forward there. So we should have some radio consoles in place and operating here within this month, and possibly be talking about cutting over that by the end of the month here.
So where did we fall on the cost for the door locks? Because at one point we said 350,000, then it was almost $1 million. So where did we fall with the cost for the door lock system?
Okay, so yeah, that was the last piece, the security project. I think we're coming around to, well, we had some choices there. The True North team, Brandon's team, kind of, when we started looking at a full jail access system, he identified this as really in any county where these systems operate, they're really a custom software design. The vendors putting in the equipment, but writing a custom program. And when he looked at the number of doors, the number of intercoms that the county controlled up there, he was really concerned that we were going to be spending a lot of money for that piece of the system, and that would balloon our budget up because when we looked at, on the other side of that, when we looked at the number of cameras and maybe adding some cameras and changing some cameras, it started to grow what we had originally gotten as a prospective budget. And again, he said that investment for the number of doors that you were going to control was not a very, a wise investment. If you had a new jail, if you were operating a lot more doors, that would make a little more sense. So he recommended us looking at what we call an enterprise system, essentially a system that's off the shelf kind of thing that does control doors. It does can support the intercoms, but it's really not specifically written for jails. But the kind of system you would find in any school or anything like that. So we looked at that. They gave us a good presentation on it, and we feel like that's the direction to go, because that keeps us within the budget that we wanted to use, or that we were using, and also gets us those cameras that we can control, or that we can add to the system, and really meet our needs. So that's the direction we're going. We're developing the request for bid right now. I think we're gonna be able to get that wrapped up here in this, probably within this month as well, and get it on the streets, and we'll get some responses. And so that's looking pretty good, that the county will get everything it needs out of that system, and then really be able to expand that system too. The cameras themselves are just a networked port like any computer. And so we'll have the ability to kind of rely on that system and access or add to it in the future.
So he mentioned intercoms. Is this going to fix one of our jail inspection concerns with there being no intercoms in some areas?
Yes.
Okay, and so I think what I heard you say is that it's coming in around the original estimate, which was 350,000. Is that right, Mike?
Yeah.
Or less?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. We still feel like that
Sounds
budget's pretty
amazing.
good.
Okay, that's much better than $1 million. Okay, and the cameras that we have later on the agenda is going to be tied into this system. Didn't we have some cameras that we were?
No, different system.
Oh, okay. All right. Anything else you wanted to add, Mike?
No, I think that that covers everything that I had.
Okay, so just for the committee's information, Clint has talked with Carol Worth, and we've pushed where we actually borrow the money to the May county board meeting, which, Mike, I just want to make sure you guys understand again that once we borrow this money, it's 18 months. So given how it's gone so far, how are you feeling about being able to complete this project in 18 months, once the clock starts ticking?
That is the challenge, a challenge that I don't normally run into. So that is a challenge. I think there's some ideas on how that would work, but I feel pretty good if we can stick to this design that we have. And like I said, I think we're really close to feeling a little more comfortable, but there's always risks, but I feel a little more comfortable if we can stay on the course we're on right now.
So you don't have any, do you have any concern that you will not know a final number before May? As far as how much money it's going to take to complete the project?
I think what we'll have is, I think we'll have good numbers as far as, we always want to carry a little bit of contingency money, but we'll have, much better numbers than, say the budgetary numbers we have now. So I think the civil piece is really the one that I need to have kind of more formalized numbers. And then I think that once we build a contingency off of that, because we'll know our civils, we'll know our radio vendor. We know we might run into a few things, but we realize that those things should be minor. And so the contingency that we build off of that should be much more of a safe number. So yeah,
Okay,
May,
because-
I'm comfortable with May.
And you understand that we cannot borrow more than 8.5 million because that's what that's the number we're authorized. So even if it
Yeah.
comes in at more than 8.5, we can't borrow more than 8.5 unless we go through the whole process again, which I absolutely do not want to do. It would be a
I feel
disaster.
pretty good about that. Yes.
Okay. So I just have a general question for you. So when we were developing this RFP and talking with you in the beginning, several times I asked, and I don't know if anyone else asked as well, but was shouldn't we just give a call to some of these tower owners and make sure that they're even a possibility before we write an entire proposal on counting on those towers? And now here we are, and we've run into that exact issue where towers that we thought we were going to be able to use, we can't use. So, and it's wasted a lot of time. I guess from a procedural standpoint, I don't understand, and maybe you can explain to me why, isn't it possible to at least just inquire before to see if those towers are even a possibility? Which I'm curious, are we using the Wiscom tower? No, it's full. Yeah, and that was on everybody's proposal. So it just seems like it wasted a lot of time because we couldn't or didn't make phone calls just making sure that it's even a possibility for some of these towers. Can you let me know why that is why that procedure seems to be the way it is for your process?
Well, we're not really using the Wiscom tower, not necessarily because it's full, because we really hadn't gone down that path. We really moved away from the Wiscom tower to move to probably provide better coverage in Viola. Now, you can give these folks a call and get a little bit of understanding, but they're always looking for details, of exactly what height you want to use and what you want to put on the tower. On the flip side, they've got limitations and of the space that they've got up there. So we have to put together a formal application that they review, and they've got kind of, again, with like US Cellular, they've got a company kind of running their process. And so I've even had a challenge just trying to get them on the phone and say, I don't need the exact amount of what you're going to charge the county, but I need to know that we're in the same ballpark. I mean, again, when we ran into this with mobility, and we had a conversation up front with them to say, what this is what it's used for. And, when they came back with that number, it was just, we're just way too far apart here. And I don't know why that was, but again, I even knew that when we could make some changes and maybe reduce our costs or our footprint on the tower, but as far apart as we were, that was just not going to work. So yeah, I think it sounds good that you can just call them and get an answer, but I don't know if these companies have such a process in place that they don't want to just throw out a number and tell you that you know, do a handshake deal and then you can feel comfortable moving on. So,
Mike, if I could just clarify that. I guess one of the things that I've run into is when you contact these tower owners, they want to know what you're putting up there. If it's one antenna, if you're putting up a microwave dish, because that all affects their weight, it all affects their wind resistance, and it affects their where they have their stuff, how high you can go based on what the equipment they currently have, not to mention the RF surveys that you have to do to make sure you're not interfering with any of their frequencies. So is that some of the challenges you're also hitting?
yeah, it is. And of course, you know, they're going to be looking for a lot of details. And so there's the possibility that we get, you know, kind of agreed upon some of these pieces, and then we go through the process of engineering, and the engineering doesn't work. And then there's a question of how do we deal with that? Can we put a mod on the tower or what? So there's going to be the possibility until we get through the whole engineering process that for whatever reason one of these towers falls out of a possible use. So it's a lengthy process. It's a hard process sometimes too.
When do you think we'll be through the engineering process?
So that's, yeah, I would hope we'll get through that and be ready for everything in May. You know, there's a possibility that we can look at towers and feel pretty comfortable and move forward with some assumptions. The challenge with lease owners, and I think, you know, hopefully we're going to get down to where we're only dealing with the folks from Richland Telephone, which, you know, for them, I think we'll probably be doing any of their engineering work for the county. The folks with US Cellular, if we go through theirs, they're going to try and control that process. So we're at their mercy of when their engineering work gets done. What we hope to have happen, we work with a company, which is who I'll be reaching out to next week, called Edge Consulting up there in Wisconsin, and they've done a lot of our projects. We've had a relationship with them for a number of years. And in turn, they do a lot of US Cellular work. They're not the exclusive provider of US Cellular, but we've told the folks at US Cellular, hey, you know, if you're going to use one of your firms, we're going to be using Edge, or we're hopefully using Edge as well, and you know, it would streamline our processes if we're all using the same civil engineer. So again, that would probably be one of the little possible time delays, is if US Cellular chooses to kind of use a different company, and we'll be at their mercy of getting their work done.
Madam Chair,
Yep.
I have a question I guess for you. Like, just listening to all this, not having been in the contract negotiations in the beginning, I'm just a little uncomfortable with some of the language that Mike is using, as saying a lot of "I think" and "I hope" and "I plan." Was there a time, you know, he said that they're late on the timeline. Is there a penalty if they don't make this in the end, in the time that it's supposed to be done, or if they go over the amount? Anytime I've worked with contracts, we've been pretty definite on these things. And now I realize that there's some, you know, haggling to be done, but this kind of seems kind of ragtag to me here. And I guess I would want the reassurance that this is going to get done in the time and for the amount of money, or there should be some penalty. And that's just my opinion. I don't know what the contract states.
So we haven't, they haven't given us a final number because we have to go through, it's a very strange, this whole process has been very strange to me in that we don't know the exact costs until they actually do all the engineering, and you can't do all the engineering until you've entered into a contract. So, and that's why I was asking the question about the engineering process, because once the engineering process is complete, we should have a very solid idea of exactly how much it's going to cost. And we've always also budgeted contingency, because there's always going to be these things that come up in any contract. There's going to be things that come up. So we have budgeted contingency funds in there. So what Mike is saying is that the goal is to have all of that engineering done by May, so that we have an exact amount that we know that we are contracted for. And the deadline is 18 months. Once we borrow the money, if they don't finish the project in 18 months, the money runs out in 18 months. We have to pay it out. So they will have ample incentive to get the project done. Mike, do you want to comment?
And if they don't?
Yeah. So I'll add this. We had a conversation the other day about another project and releasing a bid request for a civil vendor, and the county asked, can we provide an incentive on the contract? Can we provide some language that would require the vendor to get that done? It's not, and the answer was, and not just my answer, but from the civil engineering firm, the answer was it's not very commonly used in this industry. There's not a lot of vendors that we've seen where we held them to some type of timeline. But the other point I would add is this is, we've said this before. This is like building a building. You don't necessarily know things until you get the engineering work done and you actually turn dirt and find out what's underground. But it's also like building 9 buildings. And so that's the challenge we're facing here is we're trying to construct 9 different sites, and each one of them has their own uniqueness to them. And, if you were talking to the radio vendor, they would say, we can have this done in a certain period of time if everything was ready to go for us. And so, the folks at GEMCOM obviously are already, wondering when can we get to that next milestone for them in their contract. But we're right now, we're being held up by these sites and making sure that we have sites that will meet your needs and provide the coverage you need, and then, meet your financial needs and not cost you $50,000 a year. So we're really trying to balance a lot of those aspects. And then there are just places where we don't have a tower, and then you would, again, have to incur some type of, purchase of land or something and build your own sites. And so, again, possibly ballooning up the cost. So a lot of little different factors, and I understand, and I sympathize with what you're saying. Yeah, we would love to have this thing run a nice, clean timeline and unfold exactly how we want it to, and we'll push as hard as we can to get there. So.
Okay.
Supervisor Frank?
Thank you. So a couple of questions on the enterprise system. Is that coming out of the borrowed money? So is that held up until we actually have the borrowed money, the 350,000? Or is that going to,
It's coming out of the borrowed money.
So we'll get the RFP, but we really can't do anything with that technically until the borrowed money has been approved.
No, because we gave money to GenCom already, right? Or to whoever.
This isn't GenCom, this is a separate company then.
Hold on, she's putting batteries in her mic.
I'm just trying to figure out where that pot comes from so we know what the balance is.
We're starting to track expenses for the project.
There is money.
Yeah.
There is money. There is money that the county has agreed they can put forward.
Oh, that's right.
Until the borrowing. And that's the money that we'll be utilizing to pay for these until we do the borrowing. That helped us to extend our
The
time.
18-month timeline. Yeah.
Exactly. And so that's where this funding will come from.
And then that funding will be reimbursed. We'll put it back to the county when we get the borrowed funds. That's right. Our down payment, we paid out of pocket, essentially.
Okay, so then the other question is once this RFP comes back, it's got to be approved by the county board because it's so much money. I'm not sure what the process for that is.
We approved the True North and the radio tower project, and this is just another component of that project. So I don't think it has to be, but I can confirm that, or you guys can confirm.
I think it'd be just good to know, to make sure we know what that number is, and we can look at it in the overall budget scheme of it to make sure that we're meeting our numbers and our goals.
What's something we budgeted for?
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. I guess I'd like to know what that.
Well, you said you're starting to track. So I think one good thing we could talk about each month is we could track how much it's cost us so far.
That'd be good.
And just do a quick little.
That'd be good.
Each month. Okay. That sounds good. I don't know why she's smiling like that. But
Because we just had this discussion yesterday.
okay. All right. All right.
Yeah, because if that money's got to go back, got to be refunded by that 8.5 million, then
Right.
we're losing that amount
Well,
of
but it
money
was
for actually
included in the whole-
towers.
Yeah, but we were including it all in the costs.
Right. I
So
know, but
it's
that-
all there.
Yeah. So I make sure we're.
We haven't, yeah, especially now that it's the 350 and not 800,000, because we budgeted when we did the borrowing for 350.
Okay. All
Okay. Any other questions? No? All right. Thank you, Mike. I appreciate your time. I'm thinking that I would like to have an update from you. I mean, I don't know if it's too much to ask for monthly, but maybe every other month, if you could plan on attending virtually and just giving us an update. I definitely want to hear from you in April to make sure we're on track for the May borrowing. And I know that you are meeting with people within the county. Is it every week? Okay, so I mean, I realize you're meeting with everyone, but I think it would be good for us just because we're the ones that are going to be presenting to the county board when we go to borrow the funds, and I want to make sure that we're all comfortable and well informed. So.
Okay, yeah, not a problem.
All right, thank you. All right,
Thanks.
so moving on, that brings us, so that was item 17. Let's go back to item 11, PSAP and GIS grant monthly updates. That's you guys?
See a bill in there for Motorola, so I guess it's.
That's actually our
Maintenance contract.
fulfillment.
Oh, that's a spill
Yeah.
maintenance. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
So that doesn't have anything to do with,
So did we get the money,
we did, well, the money's,
or is it reimbursed? Is it a reimbursement grant? Okay, all right.
and I don't think I really have much to update on that from here. We're talking with Motorola on the Vesta stuff. But yeah, there's not much to report on that yet,
So,
unless Barb has something to
Well,
add.
no, I was just gonna say. We met yesterday, and part of the meeting was that we have to set up a secondary meeting with Darren and Clinton and Clay and I to go over the grants
pieces
and
and
how it's gonna flow, because it's just a question, because Darren does the implementation of the grant. So I can do a lot of like the ordering and stuff, but I want to make sure that everybody's comfortable with the flow of the grant.
okay. And is there a deadline to spend that money? Okay,
That's
so we just
18
don't want to
months.
get into a situation where
No.
we screw around and then all of a sudden the deadline's coming and we haven't spent.
Right.
Money.
18 months from the award date and
And the award
everything.
was January?
December. End of the year,
December?
wasn't it?
Oh, yeah,
Like the
December.
30th or something. It was right at the end of the year. We tried to get them out.
Yeah.
And the hope is the next budget cycle, coming from the state, we're going to see that grant kick in again. So possibly later this year. Keep your ideas out there for what needs to be done for the 911 stuff. So.
That's it? Oh,
Well,
go ahead.
I guess the other question I have or point to make is when we do that meeting, it would probably be a good idea to get zoning into this too, because
There's
those two grants are
components that
running. They're running simultaneously, and there is a lot of crosswalk
Yes,
back
yeah.
between the two. So
Okay. Does that mean is any of this going to be done by MSA? Because we don't have a GIS person right now? Or,
yeah, that was. I mean, there was money.
I guess you'd have to talk to Mike about it, but I'm guessing that we're going to have to pull MSA into some of it.
Question, we don't know who you guys picked
from?
Well, right now, we're under a temporary contract with them,
Okay,
so I would say just go forward with that
okay.
until we're not anymore.
Okay, I think it's important just to, everybody's
Yeah.
time, one meeting, both grants.
Yeah,
like-
okay.
I like
So-
Barb's idea of let's just get in a flow with it so we know who's gonna do what.
And who's responsible for what components? Because otherwise, someone can think you're doing it while the other person thinks you're doing it. Well,
Right.
so, okay. Sounds good. All right, that brings us to item number 12, approve monthly invoices and other sheriff department reports. Want to do in bills first?
Sure. Any questions about the monthly
I
bills?
didn't have any, I don't think.
So
I mean, there's two
the,
big ones that we need to
Yep.
do motions on because they
The-
have to go to county board.
the general communications, I included a resolution for that. Motorola Solutions, I did not because it's a separate item, but it's a continuation of an existing program. So,
And these are both ones we do every year.
Yep.
It's in,
Yep.
it's budgeted in the, we have it in the budget. So
Oh,
do we need to do separate motions for each or can we do it in one motion?
well, they actually each have their own separate item. So,
Okay, yeah, better.
Yeah.
Oh, they're down below. So let's just do the bills first, overall. I would entertain a motion to approve the bills. Motion by Frank, second by Renish. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
I,
Opposed? All right, bills are paid. So why don't we'll just do them when we hit the agenda. So that would bring us to the report.
yes, well, you just approved the monthly vouchers, 84,988 and 85 cents. 41 bookings for the month. Average number of inmates housed is 39.89.
It's a lot. How's that
250
going?
Good. It's so that 10 on electronic monitoring. So in that.
Oh,
number
so that brings it to,
subtracted.
yeah, okay,
Yeah.
to 29.
Yeah.
That seems more
And actually, I
doable.
think our population is down right now. Yeah. So
And remind me, do we have any openings in the jail, right?
we do.
And are we doing interviews?
We have two. We got 3 applicants for the 2 openings.
Okay.
So I reposted on WileyNet, and set it out for 60 days, which is the max you can put on that. I think we're just gonna take people as they come. We're gonna have to. So,
I reached out to the applicants yesterday to try to set up initial testing and interviews for the 3 people we have, just so we can start the process.
Right,
We can't
right.
hold off forever for hiring people since we don't have any candidates, so we'll see how they work out, and if we need to, we'll keep it open until we get some good candidates, so.
Okay. So we will have to set up committee interviews because we still haven't changed 89.7.
yeah. Yeah.
Okay, because I'm gone for 2 weeks, so if you do it in February, not to be later or with the rest of the committee and not me, whatever works. Okay, so continue on with the report, sorry.
250 monthly complaints, 49 traffic citations issued, 19 civil process papers served, 14 transports for the month. Again, average number of electronic monitoring is 10. Total dispatch activity, 477 calls for service, 106 calls for EMS, and 97 calls for RCPD.
All right. Anything else in your reports? you wanna bring
Good
up?
note is that we have Steve Herbers is back from medical leave, so we are actually full staff on the road right now. Coy is training this week. This is actually his last day of training, and we'll be 100% full staff on the road. See how long it lasts.
Just changed.
I know, right? I know.
Yeah.
It's good news, though. That is
Yeah.
good news.
And then additionally, last month I had talked about, we were implementing Prepared Live, and so we are live and operating with the Prepared Live 911 stuff. So,
Good, good. All right. That would bring us to committee approval of the radio maintenance contract, general communications.
so
For
this is,
$20,000?
yep, 20,640. This year, in the last few years, we've had this contract split between Baycom and GenCom. We decided to lump it all onto GenCom with the radio project and the transition of eventually everything is going to be a product that they provide. So with that, we did not project enough on that budget line. So under the radio project group, we have enough money to cover it, but I think it's a little less than $1,000 over what we budgeted for.
Okay.
For this contract.
So this is in combining the Motorola one with the GenCom one. There were two of them prior. What was that total? So this is actually more than those two combined?
It was. I do not have those in front of me, but they were, I'll go off of memory from last year. GenCom was just over 10,000 and Baycom was just under 10,000.
Okay.
So
Pretty close.
pretty close. Yeah.
Right.
And then the other thing is too, that I guess I'll note in regards to maintenance contracts is I made the decision yesterday that we're going to go time and materials with Baycom. Because our dispatch councils are still, they still have
Oh,
parts.
right.
I'm going to beg them to keep those parts for a few more months.
Until we're completely transitioned.
But until we're completely transitioned, we decided to go time and materials with them for
Right.
if one of those systems went down.
Yeah, and we definitely need that
Yeah.
because we can't be partnering
Yeah.
around with.
Yeah, the debate was, do we do a 6-month contract or we do time and materials? And we kind of weighed it, and we're going to do time and materials.
Yeah, okay. All right. Oh, sorry, yep.
The radio contract is that for your repeaters?
Yeah, the 20,000, that covers our repeaters as well.
So for as long as I've been here, the fire repeater up on the hill has always been separate from that. And it comes under the emergency management. So yeah, it's like $600 some every year I pay.
Have you paid it yet?
I haven't done anything with this year's.
Okay. Well, let me compare specs with you and make sure that it's not on the spec sheet for what I'm paying for.
Okay.
All
All
right.
right. Yep. Thanks.
See, it's good we meet all together sometimes, right? Okay, all right, so I would entertain a motion to approve this contract. Motion by Frank, second by Renish. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, you have approval. Committee approval of the Motorola Solutions annual maintenance contract, formerly Spillman Technologies, to be taken out of the 911 outlay account.
So this again is this is the maintenance for our RMS system, our CAD RMS system. So I also spoke with Clint about this at the meeting yesterday because I can't find that we as the sheriff's department, or me since I've been here, wrote a resolution to pay this every year. It's been one of those, it's a continuing maintenance thing. So Clint would approve it.
So do we need to do
I think
our approval?
I'd say
But it
motion
doesn't
to
have to go to the county board?
approve. It
Is
just
that what
needs
you're
to go to
saying?
Clint.
Oh, okay. All right. I would entertain a motion to approve. Would you like
I'll
to?
make a motion.
All right, motion by Renish, second by Frank. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? All right, you have your approval. Item number 15, approval to order watch guard cameras for the jail.
So this is for body cameras.
Okay.
What we're running into, well, I shouldn't say what we're running into, what we ran into. When we got the new cameras for patrol, we took all of our old cameras and put them into the jail. They were slowly dying and failing on the road. Now we're down to our last couple of ones in the jail. So if you remember back, I want to say it was June, we took a resolution to the county board for approval to enter a grant, body worn camera grant. We just did that now. So I believe Mike just submitted the grant on Wednesday or Tuesday, and we can buy at any time. So our cameras are slowly dying, and we
So
can buy
you
now.
got the grant?
We don't have the grant.
Oh.
We wrote the grant.
Oh,
We're
okay.
waiting for approval, but we can buy at any time now. So
What if you don't get the grant?
if we don't get the grant, then we're buying them out of pocket.
Okay,
So it's a 50% match, so they'll reimburse half the cost. If we get it, the plan was to purchase it out of jail assessment fund. So I'm looking
Okay.
for approval to purchase out of jail
so
assessment.
is that standard to have body cams on correction officers now? I mean, I feel like it makes good sense.
Yeah,
but-
and when we first started it, one of the things we looked at is we're getting this continual request to have more cameras in the jail. This is a way
This
where
will help.
we'll always have cameras when there's that staff
Interaction.
inmate interaction.
Mhm.
So these will be they're the exact same cameras the guys are wearing on patrol. They're going to have their own docking station where we're going to order 5 cameras. They'll have 3 batteries that are in the dock where they can just, if their battery's dying in their shift, they can pop a new battery in, put their old battery in the dock.
And these record, correct?
Yep.
How long do we have to store these, Barb?
Retention periods is 120 days. by
Oh,
state
okay, so it's
Yep.
not 7 years or something crazy like.
Yeah, so, and there's another issue, there's a storage issue that Barb's
That's what
probably
I
laughing
was,
about
well,
back
that's
there.
why I asked.
We're at 20% of our storage capacity right now.
Didn't say anything to her.
So do you have a process for deleting after 120 days? To
Well,
make sure that you keep
so
your storage?
If it's not saved, like if it's not saved as part of an active case, I had the retention period set at 365 days.
Oh,
So I may revisit that.
I changed that.
Yeah. But I just want to make sure that everybody is correctly saving and entering cases and labeling things so that we
Right.
don't run into an issue where somebody requests something
And you don't
we
have it, because that's a terrible situation to be in. Yeah.
So we're going to address our policies on that and then,
Okay,
and then I'll look at tightening up those retention periods a little bit.
okay, that sounds good. All right, so would entertain a motion for approval to order the watch guard cameras for the jail out of the jail assessment fund unless we get 50% covered by the
Make the
grant.
reservation. I resolved that. I'm just tired of seeing Frank and Rinish doing it.
All right, motion by Boyce. Dave, would you like to make the second?
I'll make that second, yes.
All right, second by Turk. Any discussion?
The cost of these items?
I realized I didn't include that in the folder and I can drop it in after the meeting, but $7,742
For,
for the 5 cameras.
okay, not per
3
camera.
spare batteries and the docking station and then all the licensing that goes along
Right with it, okay.
So
All right,
So if the grant isn't approved, then it all comes out of jail assessment? Is that what you're anticipating?
yeah.
So either way, it's covered. All right, thank you.
all right. Any other questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
I,
Opposed? All right. Go ahead and order your cameras. Item number 16, future jail dispatch recommendations. I think this is me, or partly me. So I did start going through all of the counties. I'm about halfway through, looking at how many of them have jail and dispatch combined. I found a few up north that are, yeah, and I do think we should watch very closely what's happening with Bayfield and I can't remember what other county that are talking about the combined dispatch. I think that is something that we could think about. We have, several of our surrounding counties have new dispatch centers. So I think that that'll be a part of our conversation. So I haven't finished that though. It's pretty time consuming to kind of go through. I've been emailing some jail administrators. Some jail administrators, they don't call them, they just call them like jail captains. They don't, but I'm assuming like, somewhere they're officially the jail administrator as far as the state's concerned. So far I've found that every county has either a jail captain or a jail administrator, which I was assuming when he said we're the only one left that he knows his stuff. So, but as far as the combined jail and dispatch, I am kind of going through, and I've also been just out of curiosity while I'm at it, looking at staffing levels, especially when I can figure out, because some of them just outright say what their population is. Some of them are very informative on their websites of exactly what happens in their jail. So anyway, I will bring that information hopefully next time. And then I don't know if you have comments on this.
Yeah, so actually just earlier this week, a former county board supervisor reached out to me and said, and maybe you'll have some knowledge of this, that maybe around 2004, 2005, there was maybe not a study, but this was looked into. And there was 3 possible locations for dispatch to be moved, he thought, that were addressed. And I think at that time they had projected that they would need 7 people. But so he said there has been a study. Obviously, the wages and stuff like that aren't going to be current on it.
Did you
but
find it?
I have not found it yet. So
I mean, I know there's the one where we looked at whether building a new jail or not. Like there's
Yeah.
the building assessment.
it sounded like
That
this was
file is
separate
in
from
our
that.
administrative files.
It sounded like maybe this was after the joint jail had come and gone.
Yeah, so that would have been, it was right after the Tom Porowski homicides is when that whole thing came down. So that was the end of the multi-county jail project. We looked at multi-counties building a single facility.
Boy, don't we wish we'd have done that.
It was in the end, it was a disaster waiting to happen, and how it would have come together, and the state requirements would just, it was almost like it had to be a prison setting almost. It was crazy, the state requirements. I think there were probably 6 or 7 meetings between the different
I
counties.
mean, if you combine, they have different rules for when it's a
And
combined
there was a
facility.
different,
Interesting.
they were pushing down different criteria and different things.
Do you know what year this was?
2000.
So it was 2004?
We started in 2004. And I think the last meeting was 2006.
So that's when do you remember this study being written, what he's talking about?
Yeah, I can see if I have it in my archives yet.
That would be
I
great.
might. I'll see.
I mean, that's exactly the conversation we're having. So, I mean, it's old,
I figured it'd be a good starting.
but it'd be a good
Yeah.
starting point. There's a couple of different sheriff's departments that have done this exact kind of, I've downloaded a couple studies that they had paid someone to do about their staffing levels, about jail dispatch and all of these things. So I thought we could also look at those just as a place to start with questions. And so
Yeah.
I did find some helpful stuff while I was going through all their websites.
And the combined project up north, they do have a consultant on that.
They do.
They do, and the consultant, they hit some time frames. There was some state money that was available to make that happen, or to help with that. And they hit some time guidelines that did not meet the grant guidelines, so they were not able to get that funding this round, but there's a very good possibility in the next round. So there's gonna be a really good study. They've done a really good study on that. This is their 3rd or 4th attempt to see about how it could happen, and they just kept hitting stumbling blocks, but this time I think they're.
I was reading
hurdling,
their
you know,
minutes
hurdles.
from their meetings,
Okay.
from their committee meetings, and yeah, I mean, it's if you can pay for someone to actually help you through the process, that makes a huge difference. Having the
Yes.
consultants,
Yep.
yeah. But anyway, so I'll try to bring as much of that information, whatever I find, I'll drop in the folder for next time for people. I mean, you don't have to read the whole. There's like at least 2 studies that I found so far, but they're 159 pages each. So but it's been interesting. I mean, I've learned a lot. So anyway, that's where I'm at. And if you find that 2004, somebody finds the 2004 study, that one for sure, I think we should take a look at. And I'd like, yeah, I mean, I think I need, once I get more, I feel like once I get more of this background, really just figuring out how many counties in the state actually have combined jail and dispatch, it's apparently very few so far. I've only run across a few in the half of the counties that I've done. After we do that and look at some of these information, I think we just need to kind of figure out what else we want to, what other kind of information do we think we need in order to make an informed decision about splitting our jail and dispatch or whatever, and whatever else we want to recommend as far as the jail. I mean, they're all tied together, but so, okay. Yes, go ahead.
I guess on another note, in regards to jail and dispatch, we've been approached by a few people from in there, and we're looking at 12-hour shifts.
That was talked about a lot in the studies.
Yeah, so we're exploring 12-hour shifts. There seems to be a fair amount of support, like most of the people are interested in going to 12 hours. So we've worked out a tentative schedule where they would have every other weekend would be a 3-day Friday, Saturday, Sunday off, which I think is probably helping with people in looking in.
Which is really interesting because one study that I was reading, and I'm sorry, I don't remember what county it was, the consulting firm recommended for efficiency to save money to go to the 12-12, but also for morale and personnel that the 12s seem to be more attractive. So
Yeah, it's definitely going to help coverage wise in there.
they did the same with deputies too, by the way.
I'm leery about the, if you hit that situation where somebody's on sick leave and you don't have the coverage, the having people work
24 hours, that's not
16
even possible.
16s.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It would
16s.
be 16s.
So
That's a long time.
yeah,
Although they do it in hospitals. So I guess, but okay. Anything else on that topic? All right. So that brings us to, we already did 17, mapping, radio system, and squad updates. Squad numbers look great. I'm so happy to see so much less red. Thank God. Was there any, we don't need to really talk about anything from there. Is there anything on the squads, or I mean, of the mapping and radio system? We already talked about radio system. Mapping? Okay. We're still, from mapping standpoint, the land and zoning committee is still trying to work out the GIS piece, because that also affects, obviously, your department as far as the consultants and all of that. Hopefully. We did. Thank you. Yep. 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 All right. So that brings us to future agenda items. Anyone have any future agenda items? All right. Then that brings us to adjournment at 5 after 10. That's got to be a motion by Renner, second by Frank. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.